right. Going live for a little bit. Was over there watching Legion of the Myth, and they were talking some hardcore stuff about philosophy and Jung and all that, which of course made me have to log out and listen to Tool for a while. And now here I am. Uh, the title of this, of course, is being a little bit trollish. Yes, Alberta is talking about possibly breaking away from Canada. No, that doesn't mean they'll become a state. And yes, if they wanted to, I would be 100% for it, since Alberta is the most conservative leaning state of all the Canadian provinces. So it's probably the only Canadian province we could add that wouldn't completely be stupid. Maybe Saskatchewan. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. So, yeah, so they're having votes and stuff, and we'll see how that works. I will say this. What a wild time we live in, right? But if you want to watch a more orderly Albertan gnomes, those would be some cool gnomes. I mean, Alberta does have some really good grass-fed beef. I mean, that's a fact. If you're going to get a nice juicy steak, Alberta's got some good steak, I didn't even know that until I watched Letterkenny and then, had to try some out. It's like, they're not wrong. Alberta's got good steak. It is what it is. Okay. But yeah, their leader, because Canada's system is very different than ours, and I'm completely ignorant to it. Apparently, each province, the leader of that province can make rules and shit like that. And the leader of Alberta has changed a bunch of rules to make it even easier for them to leave if they want to. But that doesn't mean they want to join America.
There's a court case on that. Canadian courts changed that from a certain threshold down to like 20%, I think they have to have.
And apparently they've got it.
Yep.
My wife is in the living room across the house watching a thing saying that shit is like, they're all like, screw Toronto and everything else. We're out.
Yep.
Now, they might stay independent.
Screw Ottawa.
They might stay independent. They might hit us up and be like, hey, either choice is in their best interest at this point.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Greg Gillespie about it, and I asked him, what are the odds of a Western Canada being formed? So you never know. They might take Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and the Yukon and just form Western Canada,
I'm so ignorant about shit. For the longest time, I thought the Yukon was part of Alaska.
No.
And I lived in Alaska.
Yeah.
When I was a kid for a while. But I always thought the Yukon was part of Alaska. It never occurred to me. Like when we drove a car from the continental U.S. up to Alaska, and then you got to take the ferry over. I never really, at that age, understood that we were in a different country. You know what I mean? Because it didn't really feel like it. It was like, we were in a station wagon and we drove up there, and it took like a week. Because, driving from Kentucky to Alaska takes a long time. You know what I mean? And it's like, but the gnomes thing is, I am 100%, this is a hill I'll die on, saying that gnomes in D&D are better than halflings. And while I love Tolkien and all of his creations, especially The Hobbit, hobbits, I don't even understand why they're in D&D, and in my homebrew setting, they weren't. There were no halflings in my homebrew.
In my game up here in Minnesota, halflings rarely come around. It's as player characters, it's mainly gnomes. If it comes around dwarves, let's go with
the dwarves always. You always got those guys that are just
humans,
like
elves, especially wood elves, because my girlfriend loves playing those. Let's see
Oh,
here.
you got a gamer girlfriend. Lucky you, man.
Yeah,
That's how you
half
do it.
elves, um, you know, gnomes, dwarves, and then gnomes, and then halflings. Somehow
At
the
my
half.
table, I have 2 dwarves and 2 gnomes. And then everyone else is a human, and that's 8 players. Humans are the most popular race players play at my table.
It fluctuates between elves and humans in my game. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just play with a bunch of weirdos, but
but
OSC
my problem is, James,
Advanced,
is I'm doing random wilderness encounters, and
right?
they're always like, "Oh, we need somebody with infravision because, God dang it, we're gonna get attacked at night. I know Vic's gonna pull something out."
Dude, 2 of the players at my table are both playing human rangers.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's something. What's up, Lee? But yeah, I don't know. I like gnomes way better. Gnomes to me in D&D. Now, if I'm running the One Ring, which I ran a little bit last year, of course you got hobbits. You got to have hobbits. I mean, it's Tolkien hobbits. But in any other fantasy, I think it's because hobbits are a creation of Tolkien, but gnomes exist in like every mythology in Europe. Like, I mean, the Russians had their gnome type creatures like Domovoy and whatever. Uh, the English called them knockers or whatever. I mean, it's just like nobody likes those biggas. Yeah, that's my brother with his always a dwarf or a human, and mostly a dwarf. And that's over the past 40 years. I would say most of his characters have been dwarves. And when he does play human, it's always a thief or an assassin. Dwarf power. Yeah. In Dark Age of Camelot, we made a guild called the Dwarven Supremacy League. And all 8 of our PvPers, which were all dwarves, we were all classes that wore chainmail and could use round buckler shields. So we dyed our armor and everything the exact same color. That way, when we engaged the English or the Celts, they could never tell who was who. They couldn't tell who the cleric was because the cleric looked identical to the warrior, who looked identical to the skald, who looked identical to the thane. You see what I mean? And we would just, I mean, when we would be running around the level 35 battlegrounds, like the enemy would not even leave their castles. They would just stand on the top of the castle hill looking down because they knew as soon as they stepped away from the protection of their guards, we were going to get them. And then we talked a bunch of like pro dwarf racist stuff, like dwarves are the master race and shit like that. It was pretty fun. Dark Age Camelot was such a good game. It's really too bad it went the way it went.
Well, there's a lot of games that went, and now we're all looking at how we're going to do our publishing and this and that. And I'm starting a new website called Tensor's Vault that's going to help people do that. I just got to get to designing it when I have time and not feel like a invalid like I do today. So,
Well, Bear showed me the mock-up of a book he's thinking about making, and it was absolutely beautiful. So, but hey, guys, in case you don't know, Legion of Myth is on, and if you want to see Bear arguing philosophy and gaming with Lord Mattias and Bacon, I can only say this: I have no idea who Bacon is, but he has a badass beard. Like that is a seriously impressive beard Bacon has. But they screwed themselves up with me because they started talking about Jungian philosophy. So I immediately had to like quit watching them and just listen to like Tool, 46 plus 2 and shit like that. So I'm sitting in here like, my shadow,
yeah.
I am just an imbecile. Anyway, Tool School. My next character is going to be an elf bard named Presley. Elvish Presley. Get out of here. That's awesome. I love it. RPG Dad, how you doing, RPG Dad? I'm an RPG Dad too. Got 2 full-grown daughters who no longer play RPGs because they're too cool. My youngest daughter said she would only play a game if I ran the game I created. That's the only time she'll ever join me again. I am almost always the forever DM also, Michael. The only time I get to play the game is when one of our bros runs Vampire. So I do get to play Vampire, which, yes, I'm one of those nerdy 90s LARPer kids that used to paint their nails black and do all the goth shit and had my labret piercing and all that. So, you know, it's nice and nostalgic to be able to play a Bruja again. And, you know, celerity beat somebody down if they mess with me. But I do think 5th edition is the best version of Vampire because it's the only version where your character isn't a superhero. You are actually a monster and you have to deal with it. Whereas like earlier editions, you know, but I am the forever DM, mostly AD&D, but now OSC Advanced. And a reason, Vic, which you probably know, in OSC Advanced, if you take away level caps from the demi-humans, humans get +1 charisma, +1 constitution, +1 loyalty from henchmen, and every time they level up, you roll 2 hit die and pick the one you want. And that's how you end up with a human cleric at level 7 with like 56 hit points. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the dwarf fighter's got like 30 something. It's like, you know, and they both got a pretty high. Yeah, maybe they will, because growing up, even though my mom bought me my first box set of D&D, the Moldvay Cook box set, she would never play D&D with us when we were kids. But when I got about 45, which means she was like 65, she started playing D&D every week with us. And she would always play a human fighter. Usually, if she was allowed, depending on the world, she would play a Japanese samurai code. So she was always like the foreign person from the distant mystical west or east or whatever. And she would always go online and get a picture of like a Crane Clan samurai from Legend of the Five Rings, and then she'd make that the picture of her character, you know. So my mom and my brother, you could say, are both kind of weeaboos. Speaking of, Hungar, what the hell are you doing, man? Hungar was over there watching Legion of Myth with me too. Yeah, maybe when they're in their 40s, but here's the thing. My oldest daughter has 4 kids. My youngest daughter's got 2. So, yeah, maybe when their kids grow up. Or maybe the grandkids
when they turn 8,
play D&D with grandpa sometime.
When they turn 8, that's when you get them. That's when I got my boys to play at 8 years old.
I was 13, at least 13.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even remember being 8. I'm not even sure I ever was. But yeah, my mom, you guys have heard me go off on my mom. My mom was super awesome, you know. Like at the time I didn't think so, but when I was a little kid, she always made sure I read at least 1 book a week. And she would question me on it. And she introduced me to Asimov, Tolkien, you know, all of these Heinlein, frickin' Lovecraft, Howard, like all of the Appendix N things people talk about, my mom introduced me to. And then when I was 13, I was such a huge fan of Tolkien that my mom saw the basic D&D box set and she thought I'd like it. So she bought it for me. And boom, next thing you know.
Well, my mom loved to read, so she found it. She got recommended it by the ladies at, I think it was Walden Book or B. Dalton, one of the two. My mom was like one of those members of it that was like, you know.
Yeah, it was a Walden Books where my mom got mine. She went to back when malls were a thing. She went to the mall, and the Walden Books had this section of wall that was role playing games. It wasn't big. It was just D&D and Judges Guild, not like Traveler stuff. But and she bought it for me, and she gave it to me for my birthday. And then, of course, my brother and sister are 1 year apart from each other and me. We're like 13 months apart. So I'm 13, Hungar's 12, my little sister's 11. You know what I mean? So it's like I had a built-in group of players to play the game incredibly wrong with for like a year. Took us a long time to figure out how to actually play the game because there was no internet. There was no DMs out there being like, this is how you do things. No, just figured it out. Just collected your first edition AD&D core books this week. I prefer 1E over 2E, but any TSR D&D is better than Wizard of the Coast D&D, in my opinion. And then Labyrinth Lord is awesome. Dragon Slayer is awesome.
Hey, RPG Dad, you don't need to collect 2E. I just my opinion. It's just like going backward as far as I'm concerned.
I would argue that 2E is a little bit better than 1E just because it kind of cleared up a lot of the rules that 1E decided to throw in.
Insults.
Yeah, I would disagree with that very strongly. I think that 1E is the purest form of the game.
Yeah. I'm not playing no Lorraine.
However,
Williams,
if you like
Lorraine
2E,
Williams
then like
ode
2E.
to the bending, the capitulation to the goddarn what do you call those? The satanic panic crowd. Can't have demons anymore. Can't have.
He started with 2E, so yeah.
You can't have all this stuff. Ooh, the sissification of Dungeons and Dragons started at 2E, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, plus that was when they tried to write Gary Gygax out of his own game.
Right.
You know, because him and the people who were there during 2E didn't get along, and they bought him out and then tried to write him out of his own damn game. So,
well, I just recently joined in another OSE game because that's been my go-to game for a lot of stuff now is Old School Essentials. And the new one I just joined in, this is old school gaming. Like we're doing it all. We're doing one-to-one time. We're doing THACO. We're doing colors and mappers, like the whole shebang, basically, of like old school gaming. And it brought up the conversation because they're recalling stuff because it's OSE, but he's using stuff from like the 1E and the Rule Cyclopedia stuff to kind of make up for if OSE doesn't have it. So I remember asking the guys at one point, like, "Hey, I know." Because I have the OSE Advanced Fantasy, which is basically everything basic plus more. So I just asked the guys, should I still get the 1E and the Rule Cyclopedia? And the guys basically told me, if you got that, that's basically all you need for the most part. You don't necessarily need the Rule Cyclopedia. You don't really necessarily need 1E because OSE was a more streamlined, better explained version of that game.
I think the only thing the Rule Cyclopedia might have that you won't find in OSE is the Mystic class.
Well,
because
actually, I think
OSE does not have a monk. There's no monk in OSE.
Well, they have been releasing the Carcass Crawler Zines, which introduces like new races and classes every time. And there are classes in there that I would consider kind of like a quote unquote mystic class, but just not like by name. And there isn't really a monk class at the moment. I wouldn't put it past them to like make a monk class because there's already like one or two more of the Carcass Crawler Zines in the works currently as we speak because they put it up on their site like the future stuff they're working on and all that. So,
see, your mom is awesome. She doesn't know what you're into, Lee, but if it has a dragon-looking thing on it, she's gonna buy it. I mean, can't ask for more than that, man. Speaking of dragons, it's finished. I let it dry up overnight as far as the glue. So, yes, this is big as my head. I'm going to make sure all the gaps are sealed in with my Tamiya model gap filler, and then prime it white and let the painting begin. Tiamat. I gotta have Tiamat because I have Venger. So who would Venger fight if not Tiamat? Hey, Dangleberry, how you doing? Happy Friday. I hope everybody's going to have a great weekend. I've had a really good weekend so far. My wife got to take a PTO day off, so we got to hang out and go out and run around. And so, been a good time. But I agree with you, Vic, though. For me, first edition is the definitive edition. And then of all the basic sets, I mean, I like Metzer. I think Metzer did a great job, but there's just something about the Moldvay Cook basic advanced version that I think it's nostalgia because it's what I got first, so it's what I think about. But Metzer had the great play along adventure where Elena got killed by that evil wizard, and that hit us all right in the feels. When the first time you played through that, Alina the cleric or whatever. Yeah, that was the reason that Beckme was so great because it came with a book, and if you played the solo adventure in a book, you knew how to play D&D. It was just like that easy, It was so great, such a good concept.
So was that Tiamat that you were showing off earlier before my internet decided to be wacky ducky with me? All right, that's cool because that reminded me so this is something I have been working on for a while. This isn't a campaign idea I've been working on because I got the inspiration from Dragonlance, and then I was thinking about. Then I was also reading over Spelljammer, and then I recently got it's a white box space opera game called White Star. So I got this idea of like a space opera version of Dragonlance, and I actually commissioned this for someone to make. It's basically it's Mech Dragon Tiamat.
Jeez, that's cool.
Yeah, because
floating around the astral plane or whatever, just waiting to
basically
eat everybody.
Like all the Draconians are basically like they're part robot as well, so they got like these they got like metallic skulls and the robotic limbs and all that as they're fighting around, and then like the Dragon Warriors, it's like the robot dragons are flying through the astral plane basically on these giant robot mech dragons.
So when you say metallic dragon, you mean it?
Like literally a metallic, literally put the metal in metallic. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not even joking around. All right, Leth, what's up, homie?
Not much. I did get to play RuneQuest recently.
You did get the game?
Yep, and it went really weird.
Well, I mean, you're playing it, so
I summoned the second dragon.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, you're in the game, so we already know it's going to go weird.
Every time I summoned a dragon, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot.
It's a lot, but it's weird that's happened twice.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's RuneScape game is really kind of gonzo.
That's not. That's. Sorry, go ahead.
We were looking for one of our missing crew members, the navigator, which is probably useful on a ship.
Yeah, that'd be pretty useful to have somebody to tell you where you're going.
Yeah, she kind of disappeared in the middle of the night with all her stuff, and we don't know what happened. So I went back to my house, tried to summon her, which DM even told me that was a bad idea, but I still tried it anyway. And accidentally summoned an adult shadow dragon.
What if you didn't accidentally summon an adult shadow dragon?
Then things would have been a lot better.
No, I mean, what if your navigator the whole time had been a shadow dragon that had taken human form?
Oh, we know that's not true. Although,
how do you know that's not true?
Well, we know that she's an adult shadow dragon. We don't know what she is exactly because the DM said that it's human seeming. I crit fumbled on my my summon anyway.
I'm just telling you, maybe your navigator's been a dragon all along. They live way longer than you do, so
yeah. But well, DM GM's probably pretty much confirmed that that she's not a shadow dragon.
And you believed her?
Yeah. When you actually believe in the dungeon master?
I mean,
Well, skepticism is the greatest trait of a player. They must have it all the time.
yeah, it's like,
Look, she didn't even have to tell me that was a shadow dragon. She could have just said, "Oh, it looks like a adult black dragon."
I think they look a little different. But regardless, yeah, you're right. But the point is, I mean, if I were sitting in her place, I don't know, I might lie about it.
Maybe,
Be
but
like, whatever.
we're pretty
Just
sure
because that would be interesting as hell.
We don't know what she is either, because I mean, whenever she says human seeming, that makes me think that she is a human.
Human seeming should be a big clue right up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should be a slap in the face, man. Right there.
Like human seeming. Okay. So she basically, your GM told you point blank, this is not a human.
Pretty much. And
But it
I mean,
seems
again,
like a human. Navigator gets all the credit. Oh yeah, when Bear brought up Star Trek over on the Legion of Myth thing, I was like, no one ever thinks about the poor guy that's got to clean out the holodeck. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but come leave streaks.
oh God.
And I mean, on the what was it called, the Orville, they actually went into a whole thing where one of the crew members was spending all of his time in the holodeck, like involved in pornography. Like that's just all he was doing, was having like tons of, I don't know if you'd call it gay sex because his race only had men, but and they had to finally,
Actually, in the Orville, wasn't that not exactly true? And that there were
they could be born either or, but as soon as they're born, if they were females, they were turned into males.
Yep.
Now, why? I don't know, but
Because Orville wanted a horribly messed up race, apparently.
well, they had a bunch of them, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh,
But
also,
regardless, I mean, the best one, of course, was the one that what's his name? Norm Macdonald's character. He played like just a slime.
blob. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a blob that hung out in engineering. And his special thing is, since he was a blob, he could get into all the small places in the engine and shit to do all the work.
One of his pieces actually got eaten.
Yeah, as a trick, somebody cut a piece of him off and put it in one of the other guy's food. And he's like, I just don't feel right. Like I'm missing something.
There it is.
My character I'm playing currently in the new OC game I just joined is a 3 hit point dwarven warrior, basically. And during the first session, because we spent a bunch of time exploring, just getting a feel. First off, because we're talking about dragons, one of the encounters we rolled was we just see a green dragon flying overhead in the area, and we're all just like, let's stay away from that for the time being. And then
good DM.
We came across a cave full of these like gray wolves that we quickly dispatched. But the final round that we've killed, the final one, it's like we tied with the wolves. And it was me, and it was like because of how small the cave they were in was. It was me, a fighter we hired, and then with the final wolf. And so it's like I described it as like we were all coming together, and I guess we both hit at the exact same time. The wolf hits me, I hit the wolf, and so I roll damage. He rolls damage. Now he could have my dwarf could have easily gotten killed in that moment. 1 hit point is all I lost for my 3 hit point dwarf in that fight, and my warhammer finished off that wolf. So I made it. So I made it because again, it's 1 hit point, but he's a 3 hit point dwarf, so that's going to leave something on him. So I say he's got like this wolf claw mark like across his face from where the wolf struck him before he struck back. And I actually got Grok to make like a decent image of that. So
what did you roll, a 1 on your hit die?
No, he rolled a 1 on his damage die for the wolf.
No. I mean, how's your dwarf when you got 3 hit points?
Because I rolled a 3 on a D8, and he has no modifier for Constitution currently.
Con modifier at all?
No con modifier. The only thing I think I have a modifier in is my Strength, which is a +1.
All right. You answered my question then.
Also, James, I found out that my character lost a mansion to a fairy.
How did you find that out? Did somebody send you a letter or?
I teleported into my mansion, then noticed that in every room, basically, except for the bathroom, it's all fairy stuff and basically an entire fey realm.
So you teleported to your mansion and found out you had a bunch of squatters in it.
No, not squatters, exactly. Maybe the others could be considered squatters, but the fairy that was in there was mine. Not anymore, really, but she's not mine anymore. She kind of does what she wants. She's actually running her own, court.
Lee, you're 100% right. Whoever it is on a starship or a warship or any kind of ship that keeps the coffee pots full deserves a medal.
Not
on
to
my
mention,
ship, it was me because when I very first got hired, I was the new guy for like 5 years straight.
I probably shouldn't have also left her with like an entire library's worth of Fey lore. That might have been a little bit of an oopsie daisy.
You're gonna make. I'm taking my University of Kentucky hat off. Left. I don't know what's going on up there.
Well, I wanted to be a Fey expert, and it turns out that the bad idea was leaving a fairy with like true polymorph in a mansion filled with.
Well, it's a good thing you don't play in my game, because if you told me you wanted to be a fairy expert, I'd had you hanging out at the Blue Oyster.
Fey expert. I wanted to learn about the Fey.
Next thing you know, Let's characters at the Blue Oyster dancing the merengue and shit with some biker leather dude. Like, you're getting ready to learn about fairies, buddy.
I didn't want to learn about fairies. I wanted to learn about Fey, so I could.
Ultra American. That's a reference to Police Academy, a show you probably are.
No, I have seen Police Academy. I have seen that one.
Because like all the time they kept sending people to the Blue Oyster, and it was like the leather biker gay club.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen that. I've seen that.
The leather vests and the chaps and the hat. And they're all dancing the merengue and shit.
It's like, I'm young, but I've seen some early stuff.
Oh, those movies were. I mean,
and
I
this
remember
is the reason why TTRPG you're wrong about 2E. You're just wrong.
Every man for himself, I guess. At this point, it's like that's
old folks. I'm the oldest folk here because I'm older than James. So I'm just telling you, you're wrong.
You're really older than James?
I did just recently turn 55.
I am 57.
Yeah. Oh, I just look old.
Wow, James, James, you need beauty tips from Vic.
Ginger Harmony actually said to me at DaveCon this last weekend, she said, "You look younger than I thought." So I took that as a compliment and ran with it.
He's one of those Midwest Vikings. He's like 6.5 feet tall. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So you were both at DaveCon this past weekend?
DaveCon.
No, he wanted me to go to DaveCon, but the reality is most of the time I am too uncomfortable leaving my house that I don't even go grocery shopping.
It's like I'm friends with her, and I talk to her every now and then. I know Harmony Ginger went to DaveCon, and so she was sharing about her experience there.
She lives in the same city as me.
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
She lives on the west side, and I live south.
Yeah, I live way too far south to be able to afford to drive in a tent, something like that. Usually, maybe one day.
No. Where do you live? What major city do you live by?
I live in the Northwest Arkansas area.
Okay.
Oh, that's not that bad, honestly. But you'd be better off going to North Texas Con, really, if you're going to go to a con.
A bunch of guys I know are going down there. Like I know Chubby Funster, who does a lot of third-party Shadow Dark material. He's going down there. DM Blackwall, who made Horde Wars. He's actually going to be running the Horde Wars game down there at the con. And
I've heard nothing but amazing stuff about Horde Wars.
What I'm going to do is for my my summer church group, I'm going to make it a tabletop related group, and I'm thinking about, because I got Horde Wars Advanced, but I'm thinking about using using it to run this Dragonlance module, because this was actually the first 5e book I ever got, because I listened to some friends do a show with this, and I actually liked it. And then when it comes to Horde Wars Advanced, it's got great mass combat rules, and this does have some mass combat in it. So I figure like this would be perfect to run it with if I do it.
A lot of people like it.
Yeah,
and
Well,
you're
all
right,
I can
Lee.
say is TTRPG. You just gotta suck it up and drive up here for a con and bring 4 of your buddies and crash out in a hotel room and game for 4 days.
yeah. I got another lady. She's been egging me to come up to the Egg Con, or
you mean Heidi Gygax?
Not Heidi Gygax. No, she goes by I'm trying to remember. I think she's like Sapphire Connect is what she goes by usually on here, and she runs in some of the circles that I'm in, and she and her husband attend like the Egg Con all the time, and she's been egging me like, hey, come up here, we'll get you into a 1E game and you can play with us and get an actual feel for the game yourself. So
no offense to EggCon, it has grown too fast as far as I'm concerned. I went to the first one, so I have nothing but respect for Heidi Gygax, but man, when you grow that fast, it is. And I've run DaveCon now for 4 years, going on 5, and the little things you got to do to make a con go off without a hitch is nearly impossible. Luke Gygax has 2 hired employees just for GaryCon, is what I heard. All they do is GaryCon stuff year round. So, and that's 2,500 people.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, Dion Blackwall. I think it was at least it's Randy who was part of who's one of the biggest geekest guys that they're kind of on hiatus right now from all their stuff. They do a thing every year called Cabin Con, where it's just them and a bunch of guys will go out to this area, rent a couple cabins, and they just game in those cabins all weekend long.
Yep, I got some friends that do that in Virginia. They call it Virgin Con, and they
Virgin Con.
Yeah.
The only negative with the biggest geekest stuff is they live in Michigan.
I don't know. I
don't want to go to Michigan.
I got people from DaveCon this year from Maine, Florida, California, Oregon. They just
you said Harmony went up there.
They just come from all over now. So
it's like I do.
Other guy that's here in Florida, Dungeon Delver or something like that.
He's supposed to be having an online gaming convention coming up here this month, I believe.
Well,
I've been keeping my eye out for it. So,
James, I expect you. Let me see here if I can find the website.
And then
one of these days, I have to actually start going to cons again. I used to years back. I went to a lot of cons, but
I really want to go to AvengerCon at some point if he still does them, because I got AvengerCon. He's done. I think this is the 4th one he's got coming up now. I got nothing but mad love and respect for the dude. So if I ever got the opportunity to just be able to drive up there and just either play or run a game at his thing, I'd be awesome.
There's one for you, James, right there. I put it in the private chat. That one's in Orlando. That's the one I'll be at in September.
QuestCon Orlando, isn't that in?
It's right by Universal Studios, across the street.
Yeah.
And that's the one I usually DM at, and
that's the one that you're like, I'm going to be down there. You should come down. Yep. And then I was like in Kentucky.
Yeah, you decided to escape the city.
Well, I had stuff I had to do. I had to unfortunately go to Indiana, which was the worst.
Well, see, now I just have to talk to your wife, and she's going to gently prod you with that cattle prod of hers.
She don't have a cattle prod. She wanted to go out today. I did not want to go out. So she used her secret power, which is she looked really cute at me.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Like, fine.
Women have that ability.
I can't say no to her when she starts turning the charm on. And we had a good time. We went out and, got some exercise and stuff. And so I put that link in. Yeah, that one is one I could easily go to. I know exactly where that is. And Huracan, which is mostly wargaming, is down here. It's like at the Hilton up in Orlando near the airport. And that's a good one too if you're into wargaming, but they usually have role playing there too.
Well, they have at QuestCon, they've got all the big tables with the, like Warhammer and Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a big one for 40K.
Yeah, and that's why I said you should get a table there. I could get you a table there with the organizer, and you could probably sell your stock out of your garage. Your wife would be making steady trips, bringing you buckets of stuff.
That's actually a thought. But here's how seriously I considered going to DaveCon is I actually priced the tickets, round trip, and the hotel room, and talked to my wife about it. But when it really came down to freaking pulling the trigger on it, I kind of chickened out. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll be all alone. It'll suck.
No, you won't. No, you won't. I've got Ginger Harmony. I've got Rob Ritchie down there. I got some other guys. They're all going to come up to.
Well, I know there'd be a bunch of YouTubers there, bro. It's like there wouldn't be anyone I know there. Your internet's acting up a little bit, Vic. She's not a huge fan of my Krieg stuff. She says it's scary. But I did show that off on somebody asked to see my Krieg helmet and everything, and I put it on, and so deathcore.
You come up with all those guys, and you form a new cabal of Florida gamers down there, and you all know each other, and then you guys can go back down for GrogCon that year, and you'll start to get out of the house. You'll break out of that
little bubble I've created for myself. That's not a horrible idea. What I might think about doing is the guy that runs Vampire. If I give him enough lead time, maybe, because he actually thought about driving up with me, and then that week got into an accident. Somebody hit him head on.
I want you.
I know Mark Reinhagen was there. That would have been great.
Everyone's roboting on my end right now.
Oh, no.
Are we all?
No, not on my end. I can hear
Left and Ultra American sound fine.
So it's just Vic then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota must be having a storm.
Yeah.
It's been raining on and off down here in Arkansas too. So
he's starting to. It looks like it's starting to straighten up because he pixelates and comes back. But
now he's frozen again.
My wife knows I'm the boss when she lets me be. So I wear the pants in my house when my wife lets me. I don't know. There was a song about that a while back. There we are. Back.
There he is.
Yeah.
Hey, Vince, there's this new thing which
Vince,
I'm not telling you not to say hello, but when you enter the studio, a thing comes on my screen and I just have to hit the button.
Okay.
So Restream, I mean, it's a huge improvement over used to. I had to, if I weren't paying attention, I'd never know you were there. But
anyways, next year I've already got tentatively in the books. I've got I already got Greg Gillespie coming. I've got all the Blackmore crew. I've got
and I've already said I want to meet the Blackmore guy.
Yeah. Peter Atkinson. I've already got him tentatively in the books. I've got Magic the Gathering. I got Phil Stone coming back. And
Magic the Gathering. Maybe I'll bring a commander deck up there.
Oh yeah. And let's see here. Who else do I got coming?
His wife is fiddling with his Wi-Fi. Yeah.
No, my wife is not home. My girlfriend is not home. She is out working.
Neither of them are home right now. He's all by himself.
Yep. I can cause havoc until she comes home, and then I'm going to have to go help her unload her car. I think she went beating with her client today. So,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
All right. So, who wants to hear about the latest Kickstarter atrocity that I just came across today?
Oh, which
Oh,
one
my
is this?
goodness.
It's by Soul Muppet Publishing. It's called Mad as Hell, an anti-capitalist demon hunting RPG.
No.
No.
And
No.
and of course it's already fully funded and it's still got 29 days to go.
I reject everything
What
about
was the funding starting at?
About 20,000 and it's now at 24 and a half.
Okay, I want to ask a question. I have a deck of curses that is system agnostic. I showed it to Goodman Games. I showed it to Mythcraft. I showed it to Mystic Days. Everybody I showed it to at DaveCon, they said, these need to be published. I bring them online. I put them on Kickstarter, and nobody wants it. I'm like, what the hell? You know what I mean? I mean,
change the name to the Deck of Cursing Capitalists.
That probably would.
Apparently, it will sell out immediately.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you know, I'm just amazed that you could. I made a quality product. I put it up there, and I got zero traction on it.
I wanted it. I'm sorry.
There's another one.
I wanted it too.
There's another one that listed under similar product. It's called Defy the Gods, the Smoldering Queer Sword and Sorcery tabletop role-playing game.
Did it get fully
that already
funded?
existed? It was called Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
It's definitely a similar vibe to that. It's got 26 days left to go. It's at 12,000 out of the 47,000.
Here's the thing, though, about those games. People on X will buy those games, but those games will never be played.
Yeah. No, my thing is,
I wouldn't play them, and I'm walking around DaveCon, and I'm seeing all these new games people are bringing up, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That actually should sell. Well, I see these other games come up, and I'm like, what the hell were they thinking making that game? You know what I mean? It's too complicated or whatever. It's just like, what the, like, no. So
yeah,
I guess I have my prejudices about games. I mean, I want it to be easy to read, yet complicated enough to have fun with. You know what I mean? And it's not, it's not, well, you need to roll 6 dice to do this one action. You know what I mean? It's one die. This is what's going to happen. So
it depends. Yeah. If I'm playing fantasy role playing, then I like the game to be relatively simple and fast. But if I'm playing sci-fi, then I like a little bit more grit and crunch in it. And so I will run OSC, but I will also happily run Twilight 2000 or Traveler 2300. It's like, it just depends on the genre, I guess, for me.
Yeah, because I own a various amount of games too, as well. Because I tell people this all the time, because some people just don't get it. Sometimes you can't just use one game system to run anything and everything. You have to basically try out different systems. You can't use OSE. Well, actually, you could use OSE to run sci-fi, because in one of the Carcass Crawler signs, they do introduce like science fiction weaponry to include in your game if you want to go that route. They also did the same for flintlock weapons and black powder and stuff.
Right.
But for Shadow Dark, I mean, people are making stuff all the time. I just saw there's a Kickstarter now for it's called Aether Dark, which is Spelljammer for Shadow Dark. Someone did Gamma Dark, which is Gamma World with Shadow Dark. Chubby Funster, who I mentioned earlier, did Shadow Sun, which is Dark Sun for Shadow Dark. So people can make it to where it fits these games, but not every game is going to work properly. So that's why I'm always looking at different games to run and try and see how they're going to go to.
Yeah. And then the Flying Dutchman, he did
Blacklight,
the modern weapons and everything for
it was OSC Modern Necessities, yes.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon.
I own that, and I also backed his Blacklight, which is basically think of like SCP Men in Black for Shadow Dark. So
That's actually a cool idea.
yeah, and then yeah, I got all these different games I've backed over the last couple of years. Like I actually
Like
have
SCP games, but with set in. I mean, like you could play a pretty cool SCP game, but using Call of Cthulhu rules.
there is actually there are actual SCP TTRPGs that exist out there. Like there actually is one just called SCP Role Playing, and they just released. You can get the second edition. You can get free on drive-through right now. And I know there's another one that's called Fear in the Foundation, which is made by this independent dude, and it's gone through all sorts of changes over the years. I stopped following it because he went from making a D100 game to a D20 game, and that was what kind of turned me away from it. Was because I'm like, there's enough D20 games out here. I would rather have had the D100 in that regard.
Well,
And
I mean,
so,
yeah.
And then I'm waiting on the because I back the D6 system second edition. That's that's being made by Gallant Knight Games. I'm waiting for the PDF for that to come through. They're able to take their time with that.
Is that simple D6? Because I have that.
No, it's D6 system. It's based off of the West End Games D6 system.
Oh yeah,
This is
I have all of that. Yeah,
yeah.
there's
Gallant
two
Knight basically took got their hands on it, and they're making like a new second edition of that system.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I've got the 3 books: the fantasy, sci-fi, and adventure.
Yeah,
which is like modern, basically. They're pretty good. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Games.
Yeah, I got a box set that after 2 years is finally going to be arriving soon. It's called A Cream, and it's a dystopian steampunk RPG. And it's actually a translation of the French version of that game, where you're playing it's like this post-apocalypse, almost Victorian era that you're trying to survive in.
I'm waiting for the Frog Gods. What the Gygax one? You know, the big. There's like 6 or 7 or 8 books in there, and they're slow rolling that out. I was hoping they got that one done by now. I mean, I might be living in Florida by James by the time that comes out. So.
Right. If I'm still here by the time you move here.
James, I'm just waiting right now.
We'll be like ships passing in the night. I'll be moving to Kentucky. You'll be moving to Florida.
No, I'm gonna come over to your house, James, and I get down there in September.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, he's roboting again.
He's going out again, but yeah, of course. I mean, you know.
No, but the reason I was sharing that Matt is healthy because it's not the only one that's done this with the anti-capitalist. Cyborg was very heavy on being anti-capitalist. There was a couple others, and then there's many prominent
There is a certain
people.
irony to it, though, isn't there?
Because they're using capitalism to fund their anti-capitalist game. That's literally what they're doing. That makes no sense to me. That you're
like
even the
you'd give it away.
Even the freaking all these influencers that are anti-capitalist in the D&D space, like, still sell their stuff, and it made me think about. It also had me think about this because I'm thinking about. I've heard Spanish Let's Plays. I've heard French Let's Plays. I've heard German Let's Plays. Now, has anyone here heard a Chinese Let's Play or a Russian Let's Play?
Well, you won't hear either of those, not because
exactly
of Russia. It's not because of communism. It's because it's not culturally a thing you would do.
But I mean, it's such. But
it's because you'll F up your credit score and then you'll be screwed.
But I mean, though, this is basically Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is recognized in many different nations in this world, and yet two of the biggest ones. I like to think that it's possible.
Russia, bro, you won't see a Let's Play from Eastern Europe.
Well, no, I've heard French. I've heard German.
I'm saying Eastern Europe. That's the Slavic nations. They got no time for this make-believe bullshit. If you're not partying, you're working. That's what you do. That is the culture. See, like, I used to work with a guy, he's a cowboy, and he would ask me about role-playing all the time. And I mean, I was a cowboy for a while, but this guy was like literally a cowboy. Like, he owned a ranch, he had cattle, he did the whole thing. And being a firefighter was his side gig because it's one day every 3, right? And he could not. This guy lives in Osceola County, could not wrap his mind around the fact that once a week I sat around the table pretending. Couldn't wrap his mind around it. It was beyond his ability to conceive, because if he wasn't working, he was sleeping. And his wife was just like him. He even told me, he's like, if I tried to do that stuff, I think my wife would leave me. And I was like, you know what I mean?
Well, I grew up socially awkward with no friends, so
it's not anti-capitalism. It's the fact that Slavic culture places such a high premium on masculinity. And I know this because you know why. My dad's Russian. And
I did not know that.
My great grandmother fled Russia during the Communist Revolution because they were kulaks. They were landowners. So they would have been murdered by the Soviets. So they fled. And then he moved down from New York and met my mom, and the rest is history, blah, blah, blah. Because when they fled New York, of course, they went to Queens. Because or fled Russia, they went to Queens. That's what you do, right? Or Chicago. But anyway, so I know a lot of Eastern Europeans. My brother-in-law is a Serbian. And in their culture, they're all about always masculinity. And sitting around pretending to be an elf is like the least masculine thing they can imagine. So an Americanized Slav will be like us. But if you go to Serbia and start talking about playing D&D, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And
that is interesting.
It's a cultural thing, man. Now, China, a lot of Chinese people love gaming, but their country has that thing where if you game more than so many hours a week, you lose social credit. And that can affect where you can get jobs and eat and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, I was watching a video about social credit in China that if you get on the list over there and you're on the blacklist, you're no home, no job. You are basically homeless, and you might as well just go off and die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They do not joke around. They've got like, you can only play online video games like under a couple hours per week, or you start getting negative credit scores.
Yeah. I actually just saw, because I'm thinking, because you're talking about credit score, and it made me think about the whole tariff situation. A friend of mine that I've been following every now and then, she's a VTuber, and she follows other VTubers, and they all have all these like VTuber agencies out there that they can sign under and be talent for. And well, of course, some of them get all their stuff from China. And so she was going to buy some packages from different VTubers, I think from the same sites. She goes into like see the final total. They add on like an extra like $200 in what they call duties.
Yep.
And
well,
and it was like
I order a lot of stuff. I order a lot of stuff that I can only get out of China, but now I'm having to shift. I'm using Alibaba and some other websites to shift my buying. I'm going to have to abandon my dyes that I've had made over in China. I mean, I've got a little bit of money.
They'll be made in Vietnam in 6 months.
It went from being like $140 order to like almost twice the amount.
Oh yeah, because there's 207% tax on it right now.
And I'm not an economist. I'm not going to tell you how to invest. Mark my words, in 6 months, most of the shit you're ordering from China, you're going to be ordering from Vietnam at 0 tariff, because Vietnam's already signed shit saying we're no tariffs, free trade with America. And like I keep saying, half of my furniture in my house was made in Vietnam.
The guy who
Vietnamese are cranking shit out, and God love them,
guy who
Is
made
that
this
in
game,
Vietnam?
this is printed here this was printed in Michigan here in the USA. This is all printed here, and he just finally got set up to where he can now have people order in the UK and Canada, and it will get printed over there for them, so they don't have to worry about tariffs over
All
there.
the Free League games are made in Estonia and shit like that. It's like the games are designed by Swedes,
Mm-hmm.
but they're printed by Latvians or Estonians, which is why the books are so
And
awesome.
Poland's getting into the, and I know Poland's getting into the big dice game too.
You can get anything
order
from Poland.
dice out of Poland now.
Poland is one of the East
You know.
Slav countries. Well, they're West Slavs, where 40K is huge. So there's always the exception to the rule. How different our perspectives are. Yeah, it is, man. But see, Lee, you're British, and I'm an American, which means basically you're like the well from which I flow, because my culture is basically based on your culture. My people came here in 1740. Might have fought some of your ancestors at one point or another. But the point is, you and I, we have English common law, we speak a language, whatever. But when you get to like Turkmenistan and shit like that, it's not the same. And it's such a weird American thing to think everyone around the world thinks the way we do. They don't. I spent enough time in Saudi Arabia and Iraq to tell you.
People in America don't even think the same way.
Yeah, we're like 11 independent countries the last time I saw a video about it. MD Rush is a board game by a Greek company. Not checked it out. Germans make some of the best board games out there.
I know the company that made, I think it's like Simon, who made like the Zombicide board games. They're having some difficulties now because of the whole tariff issue, because they get all their stuff from China.
Yeah, because they want to get shit printed cheap in China, and I get it, but think about this: how much are they paying for the contents of their Cthulhu War bullshit? And then they're going to charge you $100 and something bucks for that game.
Yeah,
get the F out of here. Because you know how much, I mean, I had an uncle who used to live in Taiwan.
And here's the thing too.
What's that? It's like WizKids and D&D used to charge like $12.99 for a box of random miniatures, poorly painted from China. It costs them about 25 cents for that box. So
25 cents in child labor.
Yeah, 25 cents worth of freaking child labor. Zombicide and Invader, but they're not making it. I have Zombicide, the original, and it's pretty cool.
I got it's based off the original Night of the Living Dead movie, the black and white one. It's based all on that, and it's actually, you can actually play it by yourself. It's actually got rules for if you're just one player, you control all the characters, and if one dies, it's game over.
You start with your tiles, and then you go to other tiles, and the whole deal is to try to not die and reach the helicopter pad.
Well, it's got like 8 or 10 different tiles that are double-sided, and it tells you like, okay, it's like flip them on this way, and you make this map, and now you're playing out this scene. It literally takes you through the whole movie, with the exception of in the end, everyone leaves and survives compared to the movie. So
where no one survives.
Exactly.
That was when I was a kid. I watched that movie when I was like 12. That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a 12-year-old. And when they killed the last dude at the end, I was just like gobsmacked, you know? I didn't see it coming. And I was so happy. I was like, someone lived. And then he gets shot by a cop. I was like, what the hell? But yeah, I know how, well, I don't know because I've never been to England, but I do know that England, you've got England, Wales, Scotland, and then with the English, you've got the Northerners and the ones from like Liverpool versus the Londoners and the Courtney guys. So yeah, England's got a lot of shit going on too. Especially England is home to one of my favorite people in the entire world, a young gentleman by the name of Carl Pilkington. And if you don't know who Carl Pilkington is, guys, there's your homework. Figure out who Carl Pilkington is. He is the perfectly round-headed buffoon that hangs out with Ricky Gervais. And maybe
Kind
the
of
most
shares my
hilarious
last
thing-
name.
Yeah, well, it's your last name, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not
kind
that
of
trying to,
close. It's
it's
it's only a
close.
variation of my family name.
But Ricky Gervais invites this guy on, and then they just talk.
Yeah.
And Carl Pilkington is the most hilarious guy ever, especially when he goes after Stephen Merchant, who is the giant. Me. Well, I don't know, Lee. We'll see. But he's from Manchester, though. Carl Pilkington is. So Ricky calls him a mank twat because apparently that's what you do in England. If someone's from Manchester and you're not, and he always talks about monkey news. Yeah. Oh, what's he going to talk about today? Monkey news. Because Carl Pilkington is obsessed with monkeys. So every episode, they ask him to tell him the latest monkey news. And it's always some shit you would never believe. Like the fire department hired a monkey to climb a building to save somebody or some shit. And Ricky Gervais, of course, is always like, you're insane. And the whole show, you can see every season on YouTube, and it's all animated like the Flintstones.
Yeah.
And it's just Carl and Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant just taking the piss out of each other for like an hour straight. And I love Carl Pilkington. Like, I think Carl Pilkington is my spirit animal. Like, he never wants to leave his house. He's always bitching because his wife is always tearing everything up. You know what I mean? He says she's heavy-handed. She gets up early in the morning. She's really loud. So he just complains all the time. He eats lunch 2 hours after everyone else does, just so he doesn't have to see anyone else. When he goes down to the pub to get his beans on toast, he don't want anyone else to be there. So he's just like, I don't know. He makes me laugh. Hey, BRC, he's one of the players in my game. He actually sees me face to face. Poor guy. On Legion Myth, they're talking about D&D is pretend no one's in any actual danger, BRC. And I said, well, that's because you don't play at my table.
Yeah.
Because if you play at my table, there's the constant threat of danger and imminent violence. Everybody better behave. Because
you know what I tell my players every time
it'll
I
go
send
down
an email? I send them a note. Make sure you have your backup character ready.
There's been this constant, and I've heard this so many times now this week because I've heard it before, just not as often now. So I'm hearing it now suddenly, but it's coming up once again. It's like, of course, it's all Reddit stories I keep hearing about from other people. It's always the story of like the dungeon master was trying to run a game for people, end up doing a whole TPK, and now the party is all pissed at him because he didn't fulfill their need for their fun. And of course, the dungeon master's like, am I in the wrong here? And everyone's like, no, you're a horrible DM. And in like some cases, it's like you should basically yourself. It's like,
yeah, those people are idiots. I've had people at my table literally throw hands, and I don't mean in game.
Did you say
I have thrown hands with people I've gamed with before? I mean,
what were you trying to say, Les?
40 years, so over the course of 40
years, you found this on
Reddit? It's gonna happen.
I've heard stories of it from Reddit and other parts, but a lot of them have come from Reddit, though. Yes.
Well, there's your problem.
I've got some advice for you, Ultra Americans. Stay off of Reddit.
Gentlemen, you have a good night. I hear the bead lady coming home. So
yeah, I'll catch you.
Have a good night, Vic.
Work on the deck of curses. I've won it.
But
I said 2E was better than 1E, Les. That's why he says that.
Yeah, he's like, screw you.
I am going to invent a 2.5E, and it's going to be better and with blackjack and hookers.
And a beer
I'm going to make my own casino with blackjack and hookers.
That's actually the people who were promoting the flying spaghetti monster. That's their view of heaven.
You know, actually, you can play
factory and a beer volcano.
You actually can do a game with blackjack and hookers because there was a cartoon series at one point called Duckman, which was it was like an adult cartoon.
I remember Duckman.
there was a Duckman RPG that released, and you rolled the dice like you were playing craps.
Oh my god!
And it's not in print anymore, but I found this podcast that went over it, and they actually recreated the PDF into a readable document, so you could read like how to play Duckman, the RPG.
So in AD&D, there was a hooker table.
Yeah,
the Harlot table, and the Black Lodge game guys, they created the whole Shucked Oyster module, which gives you
like
a giant list.
Cranked up to 11.
My favorite Harlot's the bearded lady. The picture of her is my favorite.
Manchester United for the win. I don't care for soccer. I'm a hockey guy. They started out on like whatever XM, and then they decided to start like taking the recordings of their show and like animating it.
Yes.
And you are right. And the other thing is, I don't know what it is, but the posh English accent just makes anyone who can speak it sound like they're smart. I don't know why. It's like when you hear someone speaking that posh British accent, they sound smart. You're like, you want to believe what they're saying is true, because like when you hear a hillbilly talking like me, when my Kentucky accent gets going, people are like, oh, that guy's probably retarded and inbred because of the way I talk, Whereas, no, I'm actually well-read and had a professional job and served in the army, But, yeah, it's weird. I only support Manchester because it pisses everyone off in England. I thought Manchester United was like a very popular college or soccer team, honestly. I mean, I don't know much about soccer. I mean, I know I would root for Manchester over any other European team, probably. Just because, Germany and Spain and all that can kiss my ass. Not that I hate them. I just, the time I spent in Germany wasn't great. So I'm like, whatever. Plus, the Germans always act like they're better than everyone else.
Whenever I think of Germany, for some reason I feel like it would be a lot like Fallout.
Dude, I got there. I landed in Frankfurt. It was cold as shit. The people were nice in a kind of standoffish way. And in Frankfurt, I didn't go anywhere else but in the city. And if I was a white soldier, which meant I wasn't getting a girlfriend, because German girls either date German men or black soldiers. That's the rule right there. That is just how it is. So if you're a white soldier in Germany thinking you're going to pick up a German woman, yeah, it's not happening. It's just not happening. It's the way it is. Now, Korea is the opposite. You go to Korea, Korean women are all over the white guys. And it was just like, F these guys with all their culture and their 2,000-year-old cities and stuff.
So my Monday OSC game that I'm in, the guy who's running it, it's all based around it's a post-apocalyptic Norse mythology setting.
Oh,
and the last session we were in last week, we're coming back to the cemetery that was visited before to collect some treasure that we didn't all get the first time around. And there's what what were called raven steeds, which are basically Pegasi ravens in a sense. So they got like so they're all black with raven feathers, and they got like the little cloth and stuff. And what the GM says is, oh, and these things do not like goblins whatsoever, and we have a goblin in our party. And so we're like, oh, so me and the goblin character, who is the GM's fiance at the moment for right now, we're all like, oh, so these things are racist. The goblins aren't there, and we start going foghorn leghorn on this shit, and we're just I
say.
But no, and then I decided to take up. I was like, oh, you one of the filthy gobblers, ain't you, boy? And then I
couldn't have it why I couldn't have a goblin in the group with me.
And then because it's a new race they offered in one of the carcass crawlers, I was playing a tiefling character as one of my characters, and so I just said
tiefling is actually good, unlike the 5e tiefling, which sucks
because he's got horns and the hooves. That's what I rolled for him, and I said,
you random them as they should be. They're innately not good. They're actual Cambians. They're actual part demons, not some weird thing with tails. And
so I said the Steve's looking at my guy like, oh, look at that filthy Horner over there.
Like, yeah. I mean, I don't understand people who say there's no place for racism in a fantasy role-playing game.
I mean, it's not even really racism. It was just us like being shitheads is what it was. We weren't being racist, really.
Don't like elves. And sometimes the humans call dwarves diggers. And who knows what they think about.
That's...
Well, they are, right? That is literally a descriptive. That's not even a slur. What do dwarves do?
They dig.
Diggy hole.
Diggy hole?
Yeah, diggy hole?
That was in Goblin Slayer, the dwarf. He kept being like, diggy hole.
That song is awesome, though. I have to say, though. That song is pretty hard.
Yeah, the reason there could never be a goblin in any group I'm a member of is because I believe that the only good goblin is a dead goblin, and all goblins should be made good.
Well, this is kind of... The setting is kind of the thing where it's like, no one's really good, everyone's kind of bad and just out for themselves, and if you do work together, you're still, like, watching your back regardless. So, except for...
Like the DM plays Valheim and decide to turn it into a D&D setting.
I don't know what Valheim is, but
basically a Viking game where your character died, and instead of going to the halls of Odin, you went to Valheim, and it's a horrible place, and you have to defeat all the big bosses. And if you do, then you can go to Valhalla. But until then, you're in Valheim.
It's Viking Minecraft.
It's Viking Minecraft, except with Draugr and shit trying to kill you every time you turn around.
No, so during that same game, someone brought up this giant ass module called the Halls of Arden Vol. Are you familiar with that?
What's that?
It's a module called the Halls of Arden Vol.
It's
a giant mega dungeon.
I don't know anything about.
It says it's like 1 E18D Osric, and it's 1,100 pages.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, apparently this is like a big thing.
I own is Borrow Maze.
But no, this one told me it's like it's like $109 for the PDF because it's 1,120 pages, but it's like chock full of content.
Jeez. Scouse. I know what a scouse is because the Monkees have a song called Randy Scouse Git. And apparently the scouse is they're Northern English. And Randy means they're horny and Git means they're gits.
Yeah.
All you got to do is play some 40K and you'll learn a lot of English slang because the orcs all sound like soccer hooligans. Like they always talk about smacking somebody in the gob, and in, I guess, British slang, gob is mouth. So, if you want to destroy something, you crump it. Not crump it, but separate those two words. To crump. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to crump you and shit. It's crazy. But anyway, quickly, what did you think about Hot Fuzz? And especially the old farmer that they had to bring the other guy out to translate. That shit was hilarious. It's a movie.
I don't think I ever saw I think I've heard of it, but I never saw Hot Fuzz.
You should see it. It is hilarious. It's got the same guy from the zombie movie. What was it called? Where the guys run around beating zombies with a cricket bat.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
Shaun of the Dead.
It's like Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen that one either, though.
But they're cops in this little country town.
I've seen Shaun of the Dead.
And it turns out like all kinds of shit is going on, and it's hilarious. Orcs are the worst of us and the best of us. It's true. It is true. I love there was commentary because Angron, the demon Primarch of the World Eaters, killed Commissar Yarrick, and it pissed Gazkul Thraka off so bad that he led a wog back to Armageddon and started whipping Chaos ass. And Angron asks Gazco, "Are you really willing to die for a human or a human?" And Gasco answers back, "One of us is." You know what I mean? Because I mean, Gasco is the biggest, most badass orc ever, and also apparently was based on Margaret Thatcher. But anyway, I got rid of my Gasco when I sold some orcs off for some stuff, and part of me misses it, but I'm never going to play them. So you know, but
Well,
love me some orcs, man. They
the
are the
truth
best.
is, humans are space orcs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's those AI generated starship stories, and they're all the same. Like
I know, yeah.
the aliens thought they were badass until they angered the humans, and then yeah, I think this guy was Cockney or something. Whatever he was speaking was not English, and they had to bring like another guy out to translate for the first guy. And me, like when I watched Snatch, I could 100% understand what the Pikeys were saying the whole time. But I watched Hot Fuzz and that farmer starts talking. I'm just like, it's like another language, man. It's like, and I'm pretty good at understanding dialects and languages. You know, my wife, you know, we watch like foreign movies and she's always like, what? And I'm like, he said this, like Indians, when they speak English, I have no problem understanding that. But yeah. Yeah, Gasco and Yerrick, they were like the arch nemesis, and they also loved each other, kinda. Because Gasco only respected one human in the entire galaxy, and it was Yark. Yark was the only one who had ever handed Gasco his ass. And with orcs, that's how their respect works. If you want an orc to respect you, you got to whip his ass. Otherwise, they got no respect for you. They despise weakness of any kind. And Gasco was a tough old son of a bitch. He was old when he beat or Yark was old when he beat Gasco. He was already old, and he just kept whipping orc ass. And so he become kind of a legend in orc culture. He's the like the boogeyman that older orcs tell younger orcs. You know what I mean? Like somewhere out there, there's a Humie named Yark. They call him Deadeye or Bell Eye. And it's like, because an orc measures his greatness by his enemies. So the better your enemies are, the better you are. You see what I mean? I mean, 40K, I might think Games Workshop's full of a bunch of ponce bastards these days, but they got it right with the orcs. They got it totally right with the orcs. They are just amazing.
James, do you follow the Yo Dano on X at all, by any chance?
I haven't been on X, I think, in a month.
Okay, no, it's funny. He was posting this about this monster. I don't know which version it is. It's called the Zorbo, and it looks like a monkey. But then he does but what he did, it's now the Kevin Zorbo.
I think that's a type of demon or something.
Hold on. He actually posted the whole description right here. Carnivorous beast likes humans and demi-human flesh. Let me see. Doesn't really say what it is, but this is this is basically what it looks like.
Kevin Zorbo.
That's the Zorbo right there.
Yeah, I hate monkeys, so yeah. I am not a fan of them little bastards.
Yeah. No, but since we're on movies, another movie I've from the 80s I've seen, I like The Wraith with Charlie Sheen. I thought that was pretty good.
I don't know if I remember that one.
It's like this guy, he's this guy that he's like the lover of this one guy's girlfriend, gets killed, then he's brought back to life, and then he becomes like this weird, like sentient, he becomes like this sentient, like race car or something like that.
Weird. But Hot Fuzz is amazing. Snatch is amazing. Probably Brad Pitt's best movie, honestly. And then Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is really good. I mean, the British every now and then they'll crank out some really good comedies. I mean, not all the time, but every now and then they'll crank out some good stuff. Oasis was a great band, but the two brothers couldn't stop beating the shit out of each other all the time. Just like the Police, great band, but the drummer and Sting kept getting in the fist fights. So, whatever.
Hey, James, what's your thoughts on Face Off?
Face Off, it makes 0 sense, and I liked it.
I think that's kind of what's the
Yes.
point. I want to take
Yes.
his face off.
Well,
No.
But then again, on Twitter, X, whatever, my handle is literally like James at Super Cage fan. So, you know.
I just like that movie was basically two actors trying to act like each other and overact each other.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, though. You already should have known that I was going to like that movie. You know that I'm like a Nicolas Cage super fan. I love Nicolas Cage.
I haven't watched a Nicolas
Guy
Cage movie
is
in a long
awesome.
time.
Me neither. I need
Oh,
to watch
man.
it.
Trying to remember the last one I
Willy's
saw.
Wonderland is one of the best movies ever.
Which one?
I've been wanting to see that one. It's basically it's like a
Willy's
Five Nights
Wonderland.
at Freddy's ripoff, basically, where he's like,
Basically,
yeah,
except
where
it's
he's,
better because it's got Nicolas Cage in it.
yeah, I would probably agree with that. I never saw the FNAF movie either, though. I just always heard about it.
Plus, he never says anything in the whole movie. He grunts like twice. It's like a whole movie where he says, I think, one word. I mean, it's so surreal. That movie is surreal. And then Escape from the Ghostlands. That movie is so weird. Mandy, he stands in a bathroom in his underwear, his whitey tighties, covered in blood, swigging vodka out a half-gallon bottle and screaming for 10 minutes straight.
I think I'm trying
And then
to
he
look
goes on
at-
a killing spree. But first,
last-
he has to get his head right.
the last movie that he was in that I remember watching was the Left Behind remake that they did.
I think for me
he
it was
in that,
National Treasure.
Con Air. In
Con Air's a classic.
Con Air, he was rocking the legendary freaking mullet. He was, of course.
Oh, no, I remember now. He was the voice of Spider-Man Noir in the Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, I didn't watch that.
But he was also in The Vampire's Kiss. He was in, but let's think of good ones.
That's what I'm trying to think.
There's a new one where everyone at this college started dreaming about him. He started showing up in their dreams, and then he started doing horrible shit to them in their dreams. So they completely ostracized him and everything.
Lord of War was a good one.
Yeah.
Lord of War. The first Ghost Rider movie I liked. Not the second one was meh, but not horrible, but not great.
You know what the problem with the Ghost Rider movie was? That 5 or 10 minutes when Elliot, whatever, and him are riding together.
Yeah.
Framed out, couldn't have been an hour and a half. But that was like the best, wasn't it? I mean, you had the old cowboy on the flaming skeleton horse, and you had him on the bike, and they're
there's
cruising.
also
I mean, it's like more of that, please. That's
more
what
of
I
that.
want.
Wicker Man.
That's
Another one.
Tell me your name.
Bees, not the bees.
60 seconds. He had to collect all the cars, or they were going to kill his brother or something.
One of my favorite scenes from The Wicker Man was when he was in that bear suit and he just like.
Oh yeah, the remake of
so-
The Wicker Man where he just comes running across a field and decks that chick, and he's wearing a bear suit.
Yes.
And then they shove that wicker basket on his head full of bees. He's like,
Yeah.
not the bees.
The only reason I know about the movie was because I used to be a big fan of the Nostalgia Critic and all his reviews, and his review of The Wicker Man was one of the most hilarious ones I ever watched. Because it was
no, actually, I forgot about the scene where he was just on the on the boat and he imagines that train coming by hitting the.
There's a scene where he's hanging out in the woods and he literally jacks a chick for her bike.
Yeah.
I mean, just out of the blue. He's just like pulls the pistol out and he's like, give me the fucking bike. It's like, now the original Wicker Man's got one of my other very, very favorite actors in it, Christopher Lee. And that one, that one's a little bit different than Nicolas. Nicolas Cage is straight up comedic. But the original one, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird.
Trying to think of both the National Treasure movies are also really good. I love them both.
Yeah. Well, of course, The Rock. Come on.
The Rock.
Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery, trying to get the chemical weapons away from those Marines that were threatening to nuke LA or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know that one. I don't know what movie that is.
That's a very early one.
You need to watch that one. That one was a good one.
Yeah, I'm trying to find just all the different movies. I'm looking through his whole movie list to see like what did I see of his.
Lee is dark as hell.
He was in he was in G-Force, which was like about like hamster super spies. It was a Disney movie. He was in the Astro Boy movie. I forgot. He was he was in Kick-Ass.
Yeah, he was Big Daddy.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that. Kick-Ass was one of those ones where it's like you remember it, but then you're like you completely forget it exists until you just suddenly remember it again.
Yeah. And he's got that way of talking, where his voice gets real low and he's like, so we're going to go kick some ass, okay? And it's like, what? All right. I mean, but no, Christopher Lee, Bruce Lee is awesome. Princess Leia, Princess Leia. I get it. You're saying Spanish joke. Princess Leia in the Princess Leia outfit was pretty nice, but otherwise I could care less. But I watched a lot of those Hammer horror movies because I don't know, maybe I'm screwed up. And in the Hammer horror movies, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and there's a third guy, and they all take turns being Dracula or Sherlock Holmes or whomever. It's like in 9 movies, it's Christopher Lee as Dracula. And then in the 10th movie, it'll be Peter Cushing as Dracula. But then Christopher Lee will be in the movie as Van Helsing. Whereas in the other movies, Peter Cushing was Van Helsing. It's like, and there's, I have no idea how many Hammer horror movies they made with Christopher Lee.
He was in
about him. He explained to Peter Jackson what a man getting his throat cut sounded like. Because Peter Jackson told him when Grimer stabs you, go like this. And he's like, that's not what a man sounds like when you cut his throat. And Peter Jackson was just like, okay. Because, why, Ultra American? Because Christopher Lee had cut men's throats. During World War II, he was an SAS commando who routinely snuck across the channel into Germany to do fucked up shit. Like, he was, like, for real a superhero, this guy. Plus, he's like 7 feet tall.
I heard, I think the last one I remember hearing about was he was Dracula in the Renfield movie, which a lot of people said was pretty good.
He even when he's not the bad guy, he's always the guy you watch. Like, if you ever watch Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp, he is the judge that sends Johnny Depp to Sleepy Hollow. And it's just his delivery is like, because he's got such a bass, like voice, and he's like, it is you, Ichabod Crane, who are now put to the test, or some shit like that. Like, dude just eats up the screen. I mean, he's 90. Well, I think he passed. But even when he's like 90, you're just looking at this guy like, oh, my God, this is a man right here, This dude. But he played Dracula. I don't even know how many times he was Dracula. But he started acting in the 50s. Yep. And he was acting up until he died. I mean, watch The Rock when I was a kid. Those green globes scared the crud out of me. They would, though, wouldn't they? It was supposed to be like some kind of weaponized Ebola or some shit like that. That's not good.
No, that doesn't really good.
Yeah, Ebola makes all of your what's it called? Go away. So you start dripping blood out of all your orifices and stuff.
Yep.
It's really bad. Luckily, I mean, if you get it in America and you go to the hospital, you'll probably live.
Yeah.
But
I
if
think
you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to die.
Now,
What
when I
else?
think of, I was gonna say one of the weirdest movies, not weird bad, but weird good that I remember seeing. It was it came out in 2012. It's called Seven Psychopaths.
Oh my god, I was gonna talk about that one.
It's got Christopher Walken and Woody Harrelson, Colin
Hey, put your hands
Farrell.
up.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. It's like,
I got a gun.
don't care.
Well, I mean,
It was so
anything
all
with,
over the place, but it was so over the place that it was enjoyable because it was all over the place.
anything with Christopher Walken in it's going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I've watched the only scenes I've watched in the Country Bears was the Christopher Walken scenes, and they're hilarious.
Now, a great Christopher Walken movie that a lot of people don't know about because it was an independent film is called Suicide Kings.
Never heard of it.
That's the problem. It's one of his best movies ever.
Hmm.
And the co-star of the movie is Dennis Leary. And it stars the one guy from Big Bang, the nerdy guy with glasses and the curly hair.
Oh yeah.
He's in it. And then one of the guys from Boondock Saints is in it. Like there's this whole thing. And the story is so well written. And also it's got Christopher Walken
Oh, actually, here's another thing.
doing stuff. So if you ever get a chance to watch Suicide Kings, that is an amazing movie.
James,
You will
did you know
not
that
regret it.
Christopher Walken actually acted in a video game?
I believe it. I mean, why not?
He was in Phantasmophobia, and he's hilarious on that too.
Yeah. I mean,
Let's see.
a lot
Trying
of
to
those
think.
guys pick up extra money like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's like, hey, I'll give you $100,000 to voice this character. Is perhaps one of the greatest movies ever made. I agree, BRC. It is perhaps one of the greatest movies ever made.
So
It's funny, it's brutal, it's like there's twists and turns and character development and betrayals, and it's got everything you want in a movie. It's all in it. It's just crazy how good that movie is.
So I'm thinking of all the Christopher Walken movies I've seen over the years, and I don't think I've ever seen a movie that had Christopher Walken in it where he was playing the main character. He was always playing as a side character in the story of the movie.
There is a movie. It's called The Dark Zone or something like that. It was one of his first movies. It was a Stephen King movie. Suicide Kings. It's an independent film, but you might find it online. And it is amazing good. Like the next time we talk after you watch it, you're going to be like, damn, that was a good movie. But he was in a Stephen King movie where if he touched someone, he could see their future. He was the star of the movie. And it was weird because his hair was jet black. You know what I mean? So he kind of looked like, well, he was also in True Romance, but he wasn't the main character.
Mm.
But his hair was black instead of how sometimes it's like blondish or whatever. But little known fact, Christopher Walken went to Juilliard in New York. He was got a whole thing for dance and all that. That's how he started. He was a professional dancer. Yeah, Dennis Leary. Don't spoil it, but yeah, he does mess a dude up with a toaster. That doesn't spoil it, but yeah, Dennis Leary completely messes a dude up with a toaster. And the dude deserves it. You'll see it if you see it. It is 100% worth it. Mark Hamill has voice acted so much now that you can't even keep up with it. And even though I disagree with a lot of his political takes, he was an amazing Joker.
He was in.
I mean,
He voiced someone in like a new like Christian movie.
Did he?
I saw recently. I'm
That's
double checking
weird.
really quick just to make sure.
I wouldn't have thought he'd be down for that, but okay.
Mark
29th.
Hamill.
But his
I'm
Joker
double checking to make sure because
the Batman cartoon was
the Jesus Rules, because I don't know what that's about or anything.
I mean,
no,
No, that's a bowling movie.
I'm looking it up really quick.
it's like the meme. I love the meme where the Joker's like, "How pathetic." Oh well, I guess I'll laugh anyway. And then he does his laugh.
Okay.
I mean, that's the best.
Okay,
That
so
is-
no, he's not in it. I was misinformed. Never mind.
But he was also
Move
Cod
on.
Knocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Yeah, he's
Oh, nope. Actually, nope. This is perfect. Mark Hamill voices King Herod in the animated Jesus film, The King of Kings.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
DiMaggio was a better voice actor anyway. And a better Joker.
King Herod, Mark Hamill, seems kind of fitting.
He is bad.
I mean, he'll do good. I mean, whether you hate him or not, Mark Hamill is a good voice actor.
I'm not saying he's bad at all.
You can't take that away. The problem with Mark Hamill
he's crazy.
For some reason, the fact that Trump exists has
his constant TDS.
He is just crazy as shit.
Even his kids are just like, "Hey, look, you might want to turn it down. Get off of
just calm down a little bit, homie. It's not that bad, you know." I've had to tell people I know in real life that are like super Biden guys, and I've had to be like, "Look, 4 years. That's what you got. Everyone has to deal with 4 years of something. You'll be fine. The world's not going to blow up, hopefully. So just calm the fuck down." Excuse my language, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, stop being so crazy. You know, 4 years in the course of a human life isn't that much. So just relax. That's what I tell people. But Mark Hamill is nuts. He has definitely come a long way from Luke Skywalker. He is entirely crazy. Him and Stephen King have both lost their damn minds. But you can't take away from the fact that at one time they were both great. And Hamill is still, like I said, my favorite cartoon Joker.
I think I prefer DiMaggio as Joker.
Well, I mean, you always got to be different.
The Red Hood Joker was really good.
So I just remember this. They just re-released Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith in theaters again to celebrate its 20-year anniversary. And apparently it's because of how many people saw it. It's now said to be the most popular Star Wars movie to date.
I'm not sure which of the prequels.
That's Revenge of the Sith is Episode 3, where he eventually becomes Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's the good one then.
I think
was at the end of the second one where it shows all the clones marching into the ships, and
that was the very first Star Wars movie I ever saw. Was Attack of the Clones. The very first time I ever saw Star Wars was that movie. It was also the same day I saw the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie with my dad.
That was the best musical transition I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was
because they're playing like the theme of the Republic, and all the clones are marching into the proto Star Destroyers, and then
it ends with Anakin and Padme getting married at the end too.
Well, while the clones are marching in, it busts into the Imperial March.
I never knew that.
And like, as a guy who watched the original Star Wars in the theaters in 70 something, I was just like, holy shit, that's kind of cool. But the rest of the movies pretty much suck. Hamill was paid to act as Luke Skywalker and not to be likable.
That bad.
That's true. That's true. Gotta be able to disassociate. That's also true. It's like, yeah. And I say the same thing about games sometimes. I'm like, okay, I might not like the person who made a game, but if I love the game, I'm going to play the game. And I'll just say, yeah, the guy who made this game is a piece of shit, but the game's pretty good. You know what I mean? I mean, but the thing with Hamill is he was it's like Will Wheaton. For years, Will Wheaton had tabletop, and he was like the king of the nerds, and everyone loved Will Wheaton. And then he got Trump derangement syndrome, and now everyone hates his guts, and he gets kicked off of Mastodon. He fled off of X. It's like every time he posts anything anywhere, people just say, "Shut up, Wesley." I mean, the dude's on all kinds of meds and shit because he's literally lost his fucking mind.
I loved. I used to love when he did tabletop on Geeks and Sundry, where he played
I
all
watch
those
that
different
shit
board
all the
games.
time.
That's how I got into all the board games, which eventually led me into getting into RPGs because that's how I got Betrayal at House in the Hill, my very first like more complex board game I ever actually owned, and then I got other ones based on that one, and then it led me into getting
And
all
he
the
had
books I
great
have
guests
now.
too, right? He had
Uh,
like Felicia Day. He had like the
yeah,
Asian
well,
dude from
before they all went
Mythbusters.
TDS, yeah, they were all good guests.
Yeah, and there was no politics. It was just guys sitting around a table playing games, and you could watch it and be like, "Damn, that King Arthur game looks kind of cool." Or, I think I got into Carcassonne because of them. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, they all lost their fucking minds. Excuse
Mhm.
me again. I don't know why I'm cursing so much tonight.
I don't care.
It must be the sugar-free monster I drank. It's got me like rah. But anyway, so now what is Will Wheaton? He went from being one of the most popular nerd guys on the internet to a freaking walking joke. No one takes him serious. No one likes him. All he does is whine about how his dad beat him, even though 10 years ago, all he did is talk about how much he loved his dad and how great of a time they had together. It's like the guy is trying so hard to be relevant, even though he shot himself in the foot. If he just kept his freaking mouth shut, took his own advice, which was don't be a dick, and played games, he would still be the king of the nerds.
Mhm.
I mean, as a matter of fact, if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons Online, the MMO, if you go into the Temple of Elemental Evil, there's these special like glowy cubes you can find. And if you click on them, it's Will Wheaton talking about how he started playing D&D.
Nice.
Apparently, he had a rich friend that had a lot of money, and his friend moved, and his parents didn't like that he was playing D&D, so his friend gave him all the D&D books that he had. So that's kind of how he got his first D&D stuff. And it was like listening to him tell those stories, you're like, yeah, that's cool, Will. But then, he's got to be an idiot.
Yeah, I know. Diversity and Dragons did a whole video about him like a year or two ago, just talking about
Oh my God.
all that
guy,
stuff.
First off, I love Double D. He's been on the show a couple times. Me and him, he's a homie. But Wheaton just needs to like go away or something for a while.
Sorry, there's a car alarm going on. I was making sure it wasn't mine.
I agree. And you know what? I've asked this question before. If someone were to ask me the political or religious leanings of any of the friends I hung out with back in the late 90s when I was running in a huge group with like 60 plus friends all the time, I can't tell you because we never talked about it.
I used to not care until about a couple of years ago. I mean, it's why I literally call myself the Ultimate Can Teach RPGer now. People tried to it's like when I tried to voice my opinion of, hey, why it shouldn't matter what everyone's politics should be. Let's just play some games and have fun. And I got demonized for it. And I decided, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna double down then. At that point, it's like if you're gonna hate on me for it, then I'll just make sure that I give you that reason. Then
it's like you pushed me to do this. I just wanted to play games.
I think the saying is, it's like become the monster everyone thinks you are.
You will over time. It's like you can be the person who would never dream of having a bad thought in your heart. But if people call you a Nazi enough times, you'll start being that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's human psychology. It's like if you make a monster out of somebody, they will be that monster.
Yeah, because I mean, I assume you've all have been seeing about the white woman that called a black child like the N-word or something on the playground.
Straight up horror. Yeah, I saw it on Social Crafted. And no one cares.
Yeah, sure. That's because they doxed because the people who took that video doxed her, and now she was on I think it's Give Send Go. I think she's on that they allow people to collect funds for like to find lawyers and stuff.
Like $100,000 or something.
I don't know, but she's got it all apparently now. But people are like trying to get on there for it, and they're like, no. It's like she has the right. And Give Send Go has also been a fact like, hey, we're just here to let people be able to make money if they need to. We're not gonna like we're not going to block one person just because they don't agree with something. It's supposed to be a platform for everyone. So Give, Send, Go has always been neutral about their stances on these things.
And the problem is, as I was saying too, is that if you keep pushing shit, you will turn good people bad. It's a thing. Like now, when I go on X, I've been called every name under the book on X, from straight up whatever to whatever. And I tell people when they call me those names, I do not give a F what you think.
You know,
so call me all the names you want. I don't care. And I keep just doing what I do. And I'm the same way on this channel. I say some pretty hot takes on certain things. And guess what? If somebody gets mad at me, I'm like, well, okay, I don't care. Your opinion doesn't matter. Because, but yeah, growing up, like I've known BRC, the guy that was in chat. I have known that guy for 20 plus years at least. I had no idea when we played D&D back in the day how he felt about anything. We just hung out and we went out to eat sometimes with the bros. We played vampire. He actually got me started with werewolf, actually. We watched movies. We played D&D a lot.
Oh, you played
never at any time did we ever talk about politics or religion. And I've always been a very religious person, you know, regardless of which religion I was at the time. And I've always been a relatively conservative kind of, you know, live and let live kind of guy. But we just never talked about it. It was just like, 1995, Rob, when you helped me make my Silent Strider werewolf character.
Yeah, you know, James, if I played werewolf, I would want to be the 8 foot tall, peaceful killing machine that will have peace no matter how many people I have to kill.
Well,
they used to have the Red Talons, and their whole thing was they just hated humans. Yeah. And if you were a Red Talon, you couldn't be a human. You had to be a wolf that turned into a human. You couldn't be a human that turned into a wolf, right? Yeah. But then I found the Fenians, or the Fianna, which were the Irish werewolves, and that become my go-to tribe after that.
Yeah, probably.
Even though now that I know what my genetics are, I really should be Geta Fenris.
Yeah.
Because they're the German Slavic ones, Scandinavian ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the point I was making is people talk about shit now that we never cared about back then.
James, just remember, troll them as hard as you can. If I was better at trolling,
they cry and then make fun of them for crying.
Yeah. If I was better at trolling, you know what I would have done? Whenever somebody called me a Russian bot, I would have put "You got me" in Cyrillic and see if they'd ever figure it out.
Call them a bitch in Russian. It's really easy. It's just Suka.
I mean, I shared with you guys how I still use the nickname the Jim Jones of classic gaming, and that's literally a troll joke in of itself. And I will quote the "Everybody Plays Games" friend constantly when I'm like on a stream or whatever. I use that quote. And
that's rough because Jim Jones had the hardest punch in the world. His punch took out more people than Mike Tyson.
Wrong, Jim Jones.
Which Jim Jones are you talking about?
The cult leader, Jim Jones.
Yeah, the one that made killed everybody drink punch.
Yeah. Oh! I see now. Oh, I can't believe I didn't get that. I can't believe I didn't get that.
Who had the deadliest? That's a meme. Who had the deadliest punch? And it shows like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and then Jim Jones.
Apparently, Star Wars games are on discount on GOG right now.
Nice. I used to love TIE Fighter, especially how you could get the tattoos for the dark side on your forearm, and eventually you got to be.
I saw. I'll have to see if I can find it, but I saw there was like a Switch package that was like it was 7 different Star Wars games in one for the Switch. It was the first Force Unleashed, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I believe Jedi Academy 1 and 2. I believe there was also Rogue Commander, where you play as like the Stormtrooper group, and you're playing as you're controlling all of them to do different things. There was it was like I want to say it was also the N64 Shadows of the Empire was on there too, I think,
That's
which
good.
I remember playing that when I was younger because that was my first console ever was an N64.
That wasn't my first. I had a Super Nintendo, but it's close.
Pretty
Lee,
close.
one of our founders, who would be British before he was American, Thomas Jefferson, said that the whole thing was you should be able to strongly argue your point with whomever you're arguing with, and yet be able to leave as friends and gentlemen. And I mean, this dude said this shit in like 1750, you
I
know?
kind of wish I was true.
Oh, you
Okay.
can do it.
You can
if
try.
You do. You can. You just,
Depends on the person you're
here's
going with.
how there is. There's normal people like us who aren't crazy. And then there's this incredibly small fringe group of crazy people that make a huge group of not crazy people seem like crazy people because of affiliation, Like for every fat, pink-haired, they, them, whatever, running around screaming about the patriarchy, there's 100 liberals that are okay people. They just have
Okay.
a different political view. But who do you see? You see the pink or purple-haired maniacs. And then you might start thinking that's all of them. But it's not all of them. It's like less than 1% of them. And it's the same thing when they look at the right and they think of everyone waving Confederate flags and wanting to lynch people. And it's like, I live in the South. I've never seen a Klansman. I do own a Confederate flag, but that's because I'm a proud Southerner, not because I want to lynch anybody. You know what I mean? It's like the worst 1% on either end is what everybody sees.
They tried to call a black guy being racist because he had that Southern flag.
I remember that. The dude showed up at that rally dressed up as a Confederate soldier with the battle banner, and they're like calling him a racist. And he's like, my great whatever fought for the Confederacy. And they're like, what? And there's like thousands of black people fought for the South, guys. I'm not saying that slavery is a good thing. No one thinks it is, but
I think of the
fight for the South.
The Dave Chappelle skit where he's a blind black man who thinks he's white.
Oh yeah, Biggins.
That's like, yeah, we gotta kill all them Negroes.
And then
it's
at the end, when he finds out he's black, so he divorces his wife because he can't stand to be married to a white woman that would be married to a black guy. I'm not going to say what he said because Chappelle can get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Lee. You're British. I'm American. It doesn't matter, right? You like tea, and you like what you call
beans on toast.
You like your cookies and beans on toast, right? We drink coffee, and we call our biscuits, and our cookies, whatever. None of it really matters, If somebody's willing to be cool with you, talk about movies, music, games, whatever, then what's the issue? What is the issue here? Voting should be private. Now, you guys know I'm a Christian fundamentalist. You probably know how I vote. But, I can't help it. I'm Orthodox Christian, and we're considered the most fundamentalist Christians of all the Christians. But beans on toast I've ate, and actually it's not bad. It's just baked beans on a piece of toast. What's not to like about that? That's not a bad thing. If you like baked beans and you like white toast, what's the effing problem there? You know what I mean? Is it a little weird to think that could be your lunch? A little weird, but I mean, it's not bad. A lot of English food is actually really good.
I mean,
the English get this weird reputation for having horrible food, but they really don't. I mean, I go to the local pub here and my wife and I love the fish and chips. I mean, and I douse that shit down with malt vinegar like crazy style, maybe a little coleslaw on the side, like whatever, And who doesn't like a good pork roast or beef roast? Everyone loves beef roast or pork roast. I mean, Anyway, you are right, though. It's almost been 2 hours, so it's time to go.
It's probably
Yeah.
a good time to go.
Yeah,
It's
and
awful.
I was thinking,
The show's so soggy. The war is over. I didn't have a problem with it at all. But Lee, I love baked beans. Actually, any kind of bean. I grew up eating soup beans, which are pinto beans. Everywhere except Eastern Kentucky, they call them pinto beans. But in Eastern Kentucky, we call them soup beans because we make soup out of them. And yeah, I could eat beans every day. Beans and collards, beans and turnip greens, beans and spinach, beans with pork chops. I don't care.
I only have 3 words: fried bologna sandwiches.
Oh, well, that's the South right there. The poor man's steak, fried bologna. But anyway, do you guys want to say anything? I'll start with Ultra American before I end this. Do you want to say anything? You got anything like a channel you want to tell people to go subscribe to or something?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do have a channel. You could just look for the Ultra Mega Teach RPG here on YouTube. I mostly do my live streams on Rumble, but then I will upload the videos onto YouTube. I did a recent one about a couple weeks ago talking about just AI and how it will affect us, if it'll be good or bad or not, just with a friend of mine. And I'm also on the X Machine as well, under, again, the Ultra Mega Teach RPG, where I just share a bunch of my friends' posts and I share whatever thoughts are at the top of my head. So that's the gist of me.
So you guys heard that. Go check out Ultra American, see what he's up to. Leth, I know you ain't got a channel, but thank you for sharing your gaming news with us. It's always fun.
I like doing that. And
it's a Midwestern. Okay, of course, BRC's got to represent Gary, Indiana over here, because that's where he grew up in Gary. So the fact that he grew up is actually applaudable. Congratulations!
It depends on where you're at in Gary, Indiana.
Gary, Indiana.
If we're doing gaming news, can I share one more thing then, really quick?
You can.
Okay, well, everyone. So this is not out yet, but it will be coming soon. I'm going my submission I did for the Red Room Game Jam. Wretched Dixie will be possibly getting released within the next couple weeks or so. I've just got to do some final tweaks on it. It's basically a module that will tell you how to run a Civil War campaign using the Wretched RPG system.
Nice,
cool.
And
it's got what's his name, the Brazilian guy and his wife, right?
Yeah, Miguel and Sylvia. They're the Red Room.
Yeah, they're good people.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just
check out Carl Pilkington. I have seen all of the Idiot Abroads. I love them. The one with him and what's his name? The guy that played the Ewok and he played Willow. Davey, no, what's his name? That was really good. Like he's the little guy that played Willow in the Willow movie. And Carl Pilkington is so like he just says all of the stuff that he shouldn't say because that's how Carl is. But yeah, I love Idiot Abroad. I mean, like I said, anything with Carl Pilkington in it, I'm down. You know, my wife and I just today for lunch, we're sitting here because she was off, and we put on Carl and Stephen Merchant going at each other, and it's just hilarious. You know, yeah, Warwick Davies, who had a show where Steve Merchant, Carl Pilkington, and Ricky Gervais were in it, where Warwick Davies was playing himself trying to get jobs. and he ended up running like a Rent-A-Dwarf thing or something. And like, it was really, it was funny, but British funny. So like The Office. But anyway, thank you guys very much for sharing this time with me, and I will catch you later. And everyone else is a nice chat. Lee,